Hello everyone. As today I'm your host, my name is Orjita Chakraborty. Our topic is cinematic expertise and industry contribution. Today we are having with ourselves Savyasachi Banerjee, currently currently assistant professor in NSHM Media School, also ex-faculty of Film Studies in West Bengal State University. I lead Zima and KFTI. Worked in wide range of AV production, including corporate films, documentaries, and short fictions. Worked as assistant art director in Oscar-nominated short film Raju. Line produced national award-winning short fictions on the waterfront. Cinematographer of Canon's short film corner, selected film Traps. Over 15 years of experience in the Indian film industry as cinematographer and director. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, as today we are having, most welcome, sir. As today we are having our few fellow members with us, which is Shaptapana Dash, who is like saying the technical department, and also we are having Riju Haldar, who is going to ask you some interview question. Shall we start, sir?
Please, please, please start.
Riju, please carry on.
Okay. I am audible?
Yes, you are very
Yes.
much audible.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Sir,
Good
my
evening.
first question is, how do you see the evolution of the Indian film industry in terms of storytelling, technology, and opportunities for emerging filmmakers?
Okay, yes. So there is the storytelling part, there is the technology part, and there is the situation for the new filmmaker. Now, as far as the situation is concerned, obviously things are because there is an important factor which has come into the in the world of cinema, which is OTT. Now, OTT really is playing a big role because one with OTT as an audience, I have access to more my options are more. That is one. Second, OTT is also allowing or supporting young filmmakers to tell certain kind of stories which were always which the kind of stories which were always not possible for the filmmakers to you know narrate in for the big screen. There is a different kind of a narrative, a different kind of storytelling, a different kind of content that is coming up. That definitely is a big thing. Second, as I said today, if I have if I have subscription of an OTT like Amazon Prime, I am able to see the newly released Malayali film, which earlier was not possible because I didn't have access unless it was a festival film. And third, obviously, is that not third. The second part is the technology part. Yeah, definitely there has been a democratization in terms of technology. People shooting films, film with DSLR, mirrorless, with iPhone, editing on their laptops. So now it is also possible. So earlier, making a film was always a huge thing. You needed a 35 film camera, you needed a edit setup, which obviously you had to go to a professional editing studio. Now these things are in a way opening up. So, and definitely in a way, young filmmakers are finding it more more opportunities in front of them, right? So obviously these factors are playing a big role as far as the options being options getting broadened for the young filmmakers.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, my next question is, what advice would you give the students and aspiring filmmakers about transitioning from academic knowledge to practical work in the film industry?
See, it's not about advice, it's a suggestion. It's not about advice. I think the basic suggestion is that while you are a student, whatever opportunity that you can lay your hand to work in actual set, in the actual filmmaking scenario, setup, please do that, right? Because you have to understand that classroom has got its own importance, whereas working in the actual set has got its own importance, right? Because we all know that barring the big film schools, right? Like, for example, I am an alumnus of FTII. Now, in other kind of private colleges, right, you really don't always have that kind of a scope to get that full-fledged money. The student projects are much minuscule in terms of the setup. So obviously, the only advice, not advice again, I really don't like the word advice, suggestion would be that try to combine between your academic studies and working in the actual set. And here, I guess you need to also take up your internship very seriously, because internship also gives you that opportunity. But I would say not just internship, but go beyond that, because to be very honest, for all those youngsters who are not aware, in all film schools, like if I talk about the major two film schools in Kolkata, SRFT and Rupkola. So in these film school, when the students of these institutions make their films, they do need extra pair of hands. So anybody is most welcome to work. And some of my students have had the opportunity to work in these projects, through which they have learned a lot. So I think it would be best to combine the both, the classroom and the actual shooting scenario.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Arpita, next question হলো
Like collaborating with
Arpita ji,
international teams, how it differs from working in the Indian film industry.
Hmm. Your question is how different it is from working in the Indian with the Western world, right? To be very
Exactly,
honest,
sir.
I didn't find much of a difference, because if I talk about my experience, then Raju was an example. Right now, in Raju, obviously, we also had a fairly large number of Indians also working. Right. I think they are a little more organized. But to be very honest, I don't find a major difference. I don't think there is a major difference with the collaboration. Not collaboration, the experience that I had. I didn't find massive difference. কিছু সেরকম I didn't get that. So I don't think there is much to talk about. It was, those typical, they are little more organized and things like that. And I think it is difficult to compare with Indian film scenario, because it's a much bigger. It's easier to talk about, comparing it with maybe with Kolkata, the local industry that I have worked. Because in Bombay and all, people are really more organized. So I don't think it would, just because the Westerners are good at everything, it doesn't make, they are good at everything. But I think they are a little more organized, and basically, I think things are same. I don't find much difference. They are more professional, maybe, but otherwise, like, yeah, yes. The next one.
Sir, also like you are a cinematographer. So as a cinematographer, how do you balance technical precision with storytelling, especially in project like Traps?
Trapeze. Okay. See, I don't look at technical precision and storytelling as two separate things. It's very intertwined, right? And as a cinematographer or as a filmmaker, because when I shoot a film, I look at it as a filmmaker, as from a filmmaker's perspective, not as a cinematographer in a way. For me, storytelling is always the first thing. Storytelling is always the first thing. The technical precision comes next. I just share a small, incident, an anecdote, which I had when we were shooting Trapeze. So we were shooting the climax. We were shooting the climax inside a very narrow lane in North Kolkata. So it was such a narrow lane that even my director was also not able to stand beside me. So it's basically me holding the camera handheld, and I have my actor. Now, was such that he's talking on phone at one point of time. He gets so he simply breaks down. And since it's a very low budget film, obviously we didn't have much lighting, so we were almost shooting with a street lamp, the street light, right? Now, so we had given him that zone where he should sit down, because there he will get that light, right? So when we took the first take, the moment he's just sat down there, I realized that he was not in my light zone. But I realized that you know that I but I realized that the performance was excellent, the way he was performing. So we had that take, and then afterward I told my friend who was the director that let us go for one more take. So he said, "Was there a problem?" I said, "So and so was the problem, but let's give it one more try." So we had that second take, But the most interesting part is finally in the film we had kept that first take because the first take worked better even if he was not exactly inside that lighting zone. Because in terms of storytelling, it worked because it's a scenario where the protagonist is like he breaks down. So with that, interplay of light and shadow played much better. So I think ultimately storytelling prevails. Technical precision is fine, but it cannot be the first thing. The first thing is storytelling. Whatever the storytelling demands, technical precision or whatever should accompany.
Okay, sir, like what are the most common mistakes you have seen like young filmmakers like how can they avoid them like while making some kind of like documentary or films and all?
Uh, I think it's not a mistake, right? But only thing that I would say that for fiction film, with fiction short is that I think a lot of young filmmakers don't give enough time to writing. People are more interested about shooting with so and so camera with that drone, blah blah blah, editing it on this software. But primarily, you have to write. Now that is the most toughest job in filmmaking and the most least glamorous job. Sitting on the table, alone, writing. So that's the most tough job. And the problem is there is not a single instance in the history of cinema where a badly written film has ultimately ended up becoming a good. So I think writing is one part which needs to be paid more attention. And in addition to that, if you have to write well, you have to read. Right, that's another issue. Right, and that's why I see so many youngsters that if trapped into that horror, that thriller horror, they can't go beyond that. I don't have an issue with horror or thriller as a genre, but I think there is something more than that in the world also. So that I think is the one thing. Second, I guess there's no mistake. Second is like you shoot it well, nicely, and everything. Mm, one more. No, I think primarily I feel the writing part is the important part. That's one of the most neglected parts. With documentaries, it's a different thing because you are not writing conventional screenplay the way you write it in fiction. So there, I think you need to invest more time in research. You need to understand if there is a person on whom you are mainly making of the film. So I think there the research part comes in. But here, I think and one more thing, it's not a mistake, I say, but I think I certainly see. Now, I hope you don't consider me a old man for this. I think people are at times taking cinema too lightly. It's not that easy. It's not that you need to because with the democracy, it's not just with cinema. It's happening with photography also. With a camera in my hand, with a phone in my hand, everybody thinks that he's a photographer or he's a filmmaker, which is fine. Democratization of any medium is always most welcome. But you need to know that you have to learn things because it's not that easy, right? So I think the only thing that I feel is that little more time should be invested in writing because writing is very important if you have to make good fiction.
So okay, sir, so before we conclude, we would like you to share some final thoughts or a conclusion to inspire us and wrap up this insightful session.
Uh, I, uh, I think the best way to inspire is, cinema is a fantastic thing, and making film is a brilliant, it's a very enriching experience. So enjoy because I always say this. I say in my classroom also is that okay, when we start making a film, we all want to we want to make a good film. But I think what is most important for me is the process because I think that for me in cinema, process is very important. In certain cases, even more important than what the final outcome is. Because if you don't enjoy the filmmaking process, then there is no point in making film. This is one because we have to understand cinema or filmmaking is a very, it's a very physically challenging profession. You are physically, mentally invested so much. It's not like a 10 to 5 job or like a 9 to 5 kind of a job. So you have to be really passionate about it. And if you fall in love, everything falls into place. If you fall in love, everything falls into place, right? Because it's like to make it little interesting. It's like if I use some Hindi words कि आप प्यार में जब होते हो तो सारा चीज अच्छा होता है. So I think if cinema is not your greatest love, right, then there is no point in making cinema, right? If it is one of your pastimes, then I think there are a lot of other things to do. So the best thing is that money it has you have to be really invested. It's like it should be your primary reason in life, right? It should be your primary reason in life. It cannot be just because everybody is a filmmaker. I also want to become a filmmaker. It's not. It's not a fashion statement. It's not just. It's not that way. Mm, so I think that's it. I think that's it. Enjoy film. Film is a fantastic world. It's one of the most beautiful art form. Uh, so I think if you are in love with cinema, you have enough motivation. I don't think any external motivation is needed. Just the thing is, just one thing that I want to add. Please watch good films, because watching good films is a very important part and parcel for filmmaking learning, right? Which I guess again there's a lacking. Read a lot, read a lot, listen to a lot of good music. So develop yourself visually, aesthetically, make films. That's it. As simple as that.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving
Thank,
us your valuable time, sir. Thank you so much. It means a lot to
thank you,
us.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.